Welcome to the Signature Buzz. I'm Brandon Roberts, your host today, and I am here with a special guest, the beast of real estate, Andrew Sasquatch Lunsford.
Welcome to Signature Buzz, your fast-paced weekly real estate sales meeting.
Andrew, how are you? Or Sasquatch, how are you?
Good, good. Can I take this thing off?
Yes, please. Thanks for putting that on, though. I appreciate you putting that on
Oh,
so that people could see truly what we're going to kind of talk about today. First, I want our listeners to get to know you a little better. A lot of our agents know you. You're the sales manager in our Southwest office. You've been with Signature since basically the beginning. I met you at a previous company, so you've been around a long time. But I don't think a lot of people know as much about you as I'd like them to know. And so we kind of want to dive into it. But to start off, I mean, you actually changed your name, right, to
yes,
fit this marketing. And so
yes.
let me start off with this, the name. Why Sasquatch, and where did the branding come from, and how has it shaped your real estate business?
Well, long story short, um, I had another business partner, and that relationship terminated. Still friends, great guy, um, but I had a non-compete, and having that non-compete for a couple of years, I needed to kind of reinvent some ideas, and came up with the Sasquatch, signature Sasquatch, and the way we came up with signature Sasquatch. I went through a think tank process and actually spent some money on some advertising, and spent 2 days in Los Angeles. And the advertising company actually came up with the idea of saying, "Well, what do you do different in real estate than anybody else?" And at the time, when you started Signature, um, short sales were a big thing. And I said, well, there's all kinds of hidden dangers in real estate transactions. And I really like helping people avoid those dangers. And so on a whiteboard, they wrote hidden dangers. And then we start thinking through the process and as it goes on. And that's why it's good to have people to spitball stuff off of, especially people that are in the marketing business. We came up with um, hide and seek somehow, if memory serves me correct. And then it evolved into, all right, well, hidden dangers, hide and seek. Who's the hide and seek championship? Or is there a hide and seek championship or a game? Who's the best? And came up Bigfoot. Well, nobody sees Bigfoot, but he's there. And I'm like, Bigfoot doesn't rhyme. And then I said the company's name is Signature, and it's Bigfoot Signature Sasquatch, and that's how it started.
Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I remember, and this is you've been doing it for a lot of years, but I remember driving in a car and I got a call from you, and it was me and Mike in the car, and you started talking, and you told me what your idea was and what you were going to do, and Mike said it was genius, and I thought, what the hell? Excuse my language. And so, and it's turned out to be pretty amazing, and we'll get into some of those stories and stuff, and things that how it's affected not only real estate but outside of real estate. But how how did your clients first respond to the Sasquatch branding? Did it help or hurt you in the beginning?
It actually helped me, but I'll tell you where it hurt. And it's if I look back on everything now, I think my peers made fun of me, and that was okay because I knew it was kind of off the wall idea myself. I mean, my wife certainly hated it; she couldn't stand it. um, but people gravitated to it because there's a level of fun in it. And, to show you the difference, I even, as you well know, back when we first started, I got a visit from the division because I was using Sasquatch in advertising, Andrew Sasquatch Lunsford. And they came and said, you cannot use a nickname in your advertising. I don't know who complained, don't care, but it had to come from a peer somewhere because they knew the rules. And I just told them, I said, well, how long do I have? And they say, well, you need to stop immediately. And I said, well, there's other ways around this. I said, I'll just change my name legally. And they kind of laughed once again, getting laughed at. And you and I have known each other for about 15 years now. And I'm not one to be laughed at. I'll just go find a way. And so I just went to the courts and took everything to a judge in Clark County and had to provide them all my financials to make sure I wasn't skirting paying somebody loans or debts. And the judge, I explained the same process that we just talked about. And the judge goes, "You're a genius. It's approved." So on my license, and I just got a new passport, it says Andrew Sasquatch Lunsford.
Yeah.
And, so with my peers, it started off rough. With my clients, I found that once again we use this term in real estate from the book The Full Fee Agent. I'm either the favorite or the fool. Well, now I have a really clear defined area that I'm the favorite. So it helped my business. I think the people who don't use me because of that were probably not ever going to use me anyway, but it really elevated the other side of becoming the favorite, becoming much more the favorite. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, no, it makes perfect sense. And it's when you say you took it to the courts, it almost sounds like you were going to sue the division, but you went there to
No, 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 no,
name
no.
change, right?
Right. It was just a name change so I could use that. And actually, after I did that, a year or so later, Neil Schwartz, I think, was on the committee or something. When I changed my name, and I talked to Neil about it, and I don't know if Neil had anything to do with it. They changed the nickname process. Now you can use a nickname in your marketing and don't have to have it.
So yeah, actually the story behind that is a little bit more like they there was a lot of people that were using shorter names and different things like that. And the law states that you're supposed to use the name on your license in all marketing. And they went down a path of now they require us in Nevada at least to put our license number on anything, which allows you to use nicknames now and actually even market with your team name,
Mm.
um, as long as the one of the team members' licenses are on there. So that was good. But yeah, they kind of after you went through all the steps, changed it for you. So, but that's an interesting thing because when you talk about your competitors or your peers in the industry, and it's almost like being in school where people can be a little bit mean and pick on you. And I think it creates a lot of uh, people being a little bit nervous about stepping out in different marketing and stuff. So, what advice do you have for an agent uh, who may be afraid to lean in their uniqueness or weirdness on social media?
Um, just be bold. You know, go with what you think's works. Have a reason behind it. Bounce it off. I bounced it off of people outside the market. And spent money doing that. But I don't think I would change anything now. Uh, my wife and children have even come around to the Sasquatch idea. And, I have a gate in front of my house for my neighbors to see. They know who Sasquatch is. So it helps with marketing there. I created all this started around the time the Golden Knights
Yeah.
came into play, and the Golden Knights even played off of it and created a Sasquatch character and branded it by the NHL. And I took it a step further and took off the jersey and then took off their logo and put signature Sasquatch on it and then all my advertising info. So when clients have babies and stuff, I send things like that out. Hockey games, when I go, I was not very active this year. These are really easy to give away, little Sasquatches that um, have my information with the Sasquatch character from there, and people resonate with that. You know,
Yeah, I remember going to like when you first did it, you and I were going to a lot of Knights games, right? And you even wore the full because you put the head on for us today, which I appreciate. But you got the full costume, like the full bodysuit, the big feet, the everything, and you wore that to some of the Knights games. And I've just seen like the kids and the people just kind of swarm around you and want photos and that kind of stuff. Um, that thing's pretty heavy, isn't it?
Oh, it's super heavy and super hot,
Yeah.
and that is maybe one thing that I would change. I actually went to after the concept came about, I went to a FX studio in Burbank, California. A guy that actually the very same guy that does made the Jack Link's costume, and did all that. Um, I would have done some things different, probably cheaper and lighter. And I think the one mistake in marketing that, and I go back and forth, is the costume is built for me,
Yeah.
and I don't, as you know, I don't speak in it. I actually took some uh, lessons from a former Disney character that played Disney characters, and they showed me how to communicate a little bit with people and do certain things that would not cause fear, and that was good. But now I think I would, since I can't speak and I'm handing out stuff, it's mainly just for recognition, and the people who know, and I have to give them, a cup or a card or something that merges the two. I might have done something different to where I could have somebody else in the costume and then me speak to them. But
Uh,
there's kind of a there's kind of a mystery behind it. The thing about it is the people that I deal with now, they know who's in the costume. They know it's me.
yeah.
And there's a relationship there, and they either love it or don't. So it's good for just locking up a book of business, um, that people resonate with. I got my first $1 million listing because of it.
Yeah. I know you also get a lot of Sasquatch gifts. I mean, from
Yes,
all around the country, I've people
yes.
have sent you stuff, and I remember we had club seats one year at the Knights game, and the usher come down to get you because there was somebody out front that had some Sasquatch, I can't even hardly say it, Sasquatch socks. Um, and it just almost like stalkerish or creepy-ish, some of
I
the
think
stuff
that's
in
when
the fandom.
I think that's when you finally realize that was good. It was a good idea and not a crazy idea. That yeah.
People go nuts for it, and you've gotten business off it, and so stepping out there is that. It's just my personality. I'm more of that reserved person, that agent that, is afraid to kinda lean into some weirdness or something like that, but that sets you apart, and I applaud you for it, in doing that. But what's the coolest gift you've gotten?
Um, Well, recently I started to do radio commercials with Sasquatch, and I don't know if this is the gift giver or not because they've never come forward. But I recently received a Sasquatch watch that had Sasquatch in it, and on the name it said Sasquatch instead of somebody else. I think Steve Sanchez with the Sanchez Show here on local radio sent it to me because we started a business relationship there doing ads. So he doesn't admit to it, but his grandson, the reason I think it's him is his grandson. I went to the studios to meet him, and he's just nuts about Sasquatch.
Ah,
He's like 6 years old. And so I think it came from them, from going to meet his grandson. But I've gotten this came in last year. People just go around on the West Coast. I have other stuff around the office, um, that I have that it just shows up in the mail, and it's usually with a card. Thanks for doing such a great job, or something like that. And once again, when I'm not with them and they're out and they see something Sasquatch related, they think of me. So if they're thinking of me, that's good.
yeah. So last week, Chris interviewed Caitlin, on social media marketing and stuff like that, and she
Great
did a
interview.
lot of video stuff on Instagram and different things like that, and the direct messages and the comments that she gets, I attributed a lot of it the same type of thing. Like people are reaching out to you, and it's more than just real estate. It's because you're impacting their life somehow. And I know you've done some stuff with charity too. I know you did something with presents around Christmas.
Yeah, we did Santa Squatch program prior to COVID, and we're looking at bringing that back. COVID really put a damper, but we had 4 or 5 good years run, and we would do wrapping parties, and we had a couple of local celebrities that would come in and help with that. I know Carrot Top and
Yeah.
Jim Mulch and Rob Sherwood and Cindy Sherwood and Brad Garrett, they all helped, would come in and do things and contribute money. But as you know, we created when we first started and the Golden Knights came out, we created a fan page on Facebook, and I got to control who were members of it, and it was kind of a rush. And it's Vegas Golden Knights Beast, and I try to play off the Beast BE and the lowercase a and the ST to where it looks like Best Realtor or Best Fan Club, and so we got a very quick following on that. I think now it has 13,000 members. I went in and got rid of like 4,000 at one time because I just wanted to market to people that were local here in Las Vegas and that would recognize that brand. So those people have stayed pretty true. Um, but those people would also come out and help donate, wrap presents, and we would take them to terminally ill children at Christmas time. And Shelley Panzarella helped a lot with Prosperity Mortgage. Their people would always donate quite a bit. You yourself donated. Carrot Top donated. It was just good, and it was something to give back to the community.
I love how it's more than just a marketing thing. You really embraced it, made it indoctrinated into the community, and the Knights fans and stuff. And I know we've gone on some road trips, and you've actually wore the suit there. I think where did we go? We went to Anaheim.
To Anaheim, and did we go to Colorado together or
I
Arizona?
don't think I went to Colorado. I think you went there. Without me on that one, but it was cool just to see that you wearing the costume out there too. So, and speaking of like your Facebook page, right? Because you get a lot of play off that, and you've been able to cross market Sasquatch into that and that kind of stuff. Like what led you to the idea of marketing through a Facebook group? Everybody wants to do something like that, but I mean, tell me a little bit more behind the idea and how you made it happen.
Well, at the time, the Facebook groups were very new, and it was just an idea. And I got very lucky with the Golden Knights timing and everything. And I just thought, well, who most of the people are going to be local tourists, maybe from Arizona, Utah, and California, and maybe New Mexico that would probably fly in to see games. I didn't realize that the Golden Knights were going to be such a big hit, and then we're going to have Chicago, and why everybody's going to be coming to see games. But the idea was to create a database of some of at least local people that I could go to the games, get some recognition, hand out business cards, hand out trinkets, um, and it just kind of morphed from there. And I will tell you that the past couple of years, I kind of got away from Sasquatch, but I've had lots of people asking to bring it back, and been encouraged. And actually, the last Academy class kind of, got me. But I'd gone through some health issues too, and some other things that really kind of slowed me down. But now we're kind of ramping back up, and we enjoy it. And I just got lucky with the timing. But I would tell people, I've had teams, real estate teams before. I think the best thing you can do is sit across from a broker or a sales manager or a team leader and tell them what your ideas are and let them help you through a process. And in that process, come up with an individual idea for yourself. We had a realtor that was on my team that found out I did this process with her, and she I just kind of started diving into what she liked and what she did. And she did pet rescues. And I said, there's your hook. And we turned her into the rescue realtor, and she goes to pet rescues and stuff. And I think to this day she's still using that. I'm not sure, but if not, she should, because it gave her a different identity. Realtors are a dime a dozen in this town or in the country. Find your niche, find whatever you do, and be bold enough to do it. And if people laugh at you, just let them laugh at you.
Yeah.
The proof's in the pudding.
There was a guy in Salt Lake when I first got my license. His name was David Hooper. I'm pretty sure I know his son's been in the market too, but he had radio ads that said, "Don't make a blooper list with David Hooper."
It's
And
awesome.
I asked him one time, I says, "Why do you use that? Like, everyone makes fun of it." And he goes, "When they're making fun of it, I know they're hearing it, and I know it's catching on." So, that always kinda stuck with me, and so I always thought, when you started being Sasquatch, I'd be the little Ewok, but just kidding. Uh, but no, it's cool. And so when did you start the, Facebook group from scratch?
I did.
You did. So and before that, you had one and you'd purchased that one, right? It already had a following?
Oh, I completely forgot about this. Yes, that is correct. Um, yes, I did purchase the group when it had 2,000 members. I wanted something that already had traction, and I contacted them and told them what I was going to do. And I said, you have to assign over all the admin rights to me. I don't know if you're even supposed to do that, but I did. I think I gave him a couple of thousand. I gave him $1 per person that he had on there.
Yeah.
And, told him my intentions, and he said okay, whatever. And before I wrote him the check, I had him assign it, and then I just went in and changed the name. But I did build it from 2,000 to 20,000, and now back down. I've narrowed it down, but only because I wanted to wash people out that I didn't want to spend marketing dollars on. You know,
Yeah.
so just wanted to narrow it down as possible, just like you would do with a list from a title company or somebody else.
No, I applaud you for, thinking outside the box. I think it's good, and, I'm glad you brought, Sasquatch out of hibernation. You brought him back, so, it's good. But let me ask you this, let's kinda jump into, the real estate market and stuff like that. Um, where do you think the opportunities for most agents are missing in the current Vegas market?
I was missing the mark on my CRM recently. I think most agents are missing the mark on their processes. That's where I was missing the mark on, and being more diligent about my processes. Um, so I would suggest that they follow up on that. As far as how the market's going, I really don't care if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. We have to market. We have to do something. And what I see a lot of agents do is, and I've been guilty of it in the past, is just pulling the sheet over my head and kind of hiding for a little bit. Well, that may be good for Sasquatch to hide, but if you're going to be successful in real estate, you can't hide.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to get out there, and you have to hustle. Look, if we do this job well, and the hardest part's not the real estate work itself. Usually, it's generating the business, and so you have to do something to generate the business and stay consistent with it.
Yeah, and I think, I honestly think where most people are missing the mark, most agents in our market, and maybe across the country, is creating that experience for the consumer, right? Treating everything like a one-off transaction or a number, and looking at volume rather than the experience you're creating with the clients. And that's one of the things that I really like about the Sasquatch thing is you bring that into the transaction, you bring that into your clients, the marketing and stuff like that. And it creates a whole different experience of somebody buying or selling real estate through Sasquatch rather than just going through the process.
I've been invited to birthday parties and gone. I've been invited to hospitals and gone. I've been on the stage with Carrot Top 2 different times of Halloween, and gotten videos from that, and was able to market Signature Sasquatch. As you know, I got invited to do a commercial, and my only requirement to the commercial is when they yelled Sasquatch, they had to say Signature Sasquatch, and I was able to pump that out to my database, and create those reticular activators that it had nothing to do with real estate, but Signature Sasquatch was in the script. That was my requirement to do it, and then I enjoyed it.
I'm just glad when you're running through the mountains and they're filming this thing and that nobody started shooting at you. I think there was a wild animal running across there.
We were a little bit worried about that because it was shot on Mount Charleston. It was for a company called On Bug Spray, and
Uh-huh.
he did a really professional job on that commercial. It was awesome. The two actors that were in it that were hikers, just phenomenal good, and the music behind it and everything. It was a great spot, you know.
And yeah,
Hey,
no,
actually, we did go to the Mount Charleston Lodge after that, and we went in character, and the Mount Charleston Lodge welcomed us in, and now they have a Sasquatch burger there.
oh,
Yeah,
do they?
yeah,
Is
they
that the one you ordered while you were there?
no, actually didn't eat. I did they did let me get behind the bar and, give out a couple of beers and stuff, though.
Yeah, no, I've seen the Sasquatch stickers around town too. And I remember that you used to do like almost like an Easter egg hunt looking for the stickers where you'd stick them, right?
Yeah, we did that one time going to LA to watch the Kings play,
Yeah,
group, and I would stop and give people hints to that. And maybe were you on that trip? I think we put some in a bar
yeah,
on like their thing, and then people could win tickets by taking pictures and saying they found it and stuff. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
those were some good times, man. I got to get back to that too.
It makes it more fun, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, so let's see here. Do you think in this market today or in Vegas? Well, let me just ask you: you focus more on listings or buyers, and then why?
I've had to adjust. I used to focus more on listings, and now my business has come from listings. But I definitely see a much more neutral market now, and my advertising on radio has gone to both, but it has more of a slant towards buyers to call me to find your hidden home, your hidden treasure. Um, so I do think it's much more buyer friendly now. Listings are always going to be gold if you have them, as long as they're priced right and marketed correctly. But I do see the shift in the market now to where buyers are getting concessions. You know, I just did a buyer that hopefully we get paid on next week. And the buyer was able to achieve quite a few concessions that I know 6 months, a year, especially 2 years ago, we would not have been able to get. So I think you just have to go with the market ebbs and flows. But you know, historically, it's listings make money and get as much money as you can. But when we have a 7.5% interest rate and not a 2.5% interest rate, it sure makes the buyers much more important. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with you. You know, that old saying, list to last, you know, you build your listing inventory to go. But I'm seeing a lot more people, well, we're seeing a softening in the market, right? So prices are stabilizing, maybe even coming down a little bit or adjusting. And that could be that they're actually adjusting, or it could just be that agents and sellers are getting more realistic on what they're starting their homes at. The market's not increasing to catch that. And so, you know, a lot of people get a little bit more nervous when a listing is taken and it sits there and they haven't had it there. It's not selling as quick as normal. And the interesting thing is that's how the market works. A lot of people got in and have just been spoiled. The listing selling so fast, and so they feel like they have a little bit more control working with the buyer because they can go out and find them something. They're not waiting for someone to do that. But I think both are important. And then with the settlement with NER and the lawsuit settlement, I think it actually makes buyers a little bit more. I don't want to say attractive. You actually can negotiate with them to get paid for what you're worth in the service that you're providing rather than somebody else telling you what you get paid. So I think today buyers are a little bit more appealing to work with than maybe in the past.
I'm actually really happy about the settlement. I like the BBA. I always use the BBA. Guess what? Now realtors really have to show their worth
Yeah.
and not be lazy. And I know as a broker, you probably don't like this. I think it gets rid of um, I won't say part-time people because there's really good part-time people out there, but it makes it more of a business that you work and you have to show your worth. And that's what we need. We need more professionalism. We need more uh, people able to articulate why we get paid what we do. And, you know, also um, my fees actually gone up, not down, because I need the money to market. You know, I have to use it to market.
Sasquatch got to eat.
Yeah.
So no, and as a broker, I think it's a good thing for the industry too. And it's not about getting rid of people for me. It's about raising the professionalism in the
Yes.
industry. And if you're not going to take this as a serious business, maybe it's not the best place um, to be for you. But that's another show and another debate. Let's go back to social media marketing a little bit. How has social media changed your business, especially with the character of Sasquatch?
Recognition. That's the only thing I can think of. I still do Facebook ads and stuff like that, but nothing beats the personal note. Nothing beats the personal email. Nothing beats calling them up and asking them things other than real estate. How's little Johnny doing? How's the Dallas Cowboys doing? But it's all about recognition. Um, we all scroll down the Twitter feeds or the X feeds or threads or Facebook or Instagram. There's ads all over the place. So I'm not so sure it does a whole lot as far as lead generation, but it does a lot for personal recognition. There's some real estate people out there that advertise that I can sing their jingles in my head. And I'm trying to do the same thing because I want to be recognized.
What platforms are you on and getting the most traction from? Is it just your Facebook group, or do you use Instagram and TikTok and all those others?
I use Facebook and Instagram. There's minimal traffic there. I still think um, the email marketing is the best. Forming your best contact management system you can, and physically beating the streets and talking to people. We can't hide in this industry. We have to go out, meet people, and meet them on a different level than just real estate. They'll know you're a realtor soon enough. And everybody in Vegas knows 20 realtors. But do you have a relationship with them to where you can, uh, to where they put everything together and want to choose you, become that favorite?
Yeah, I think the direction real estate's going is the one-off transactions and that chase deals. That's going to get harder and harder to sustain a business. I think it's going to go more and more to the relationship and the referral type business. The people that know, like, and trust you, they're going to willing to pay for a good service and not looking for just the cheapest person in town to walk them through a process.
Yep, I agree, and I hope it's going that way because I do better with relationships with people than I do with mass marketing. I guess um, I can tell you every client I've ever had, with the exception of just one, and I didn't have anything negative to do with that transaction. It was another issue. I think would all like and use me again. I have a client that coming up in 2 months from now, they're moving back. I will have done 6 transactions with them.
Wow.
Military people move, come, move, come, move, come. And the last time I when I sold their house just 2 years ago, Brandon, um, contract military person, very sweet family, and had been with them. First transaction was 12 years ago. Um, Having that relationship with them. And by the way, through Facebook as they go and come and go and come, doing a great job the first time. I don't think they'll ever leave me. But the last transaction, when I sold their house and they moved to California, I was like, I guess this is the last time we're ever going to see each other. Five's kind of the trick. And just got a contact just a week ago. Hey, we're coming back. And what I like about this person is a military uh, uh, husband and wife. Their children's grown about my kids' age in their 20s. He's leaving the military sector and now he's coming back here to teach engineering at one of our local high schools. I
Oh,
love
wow.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, like, um, how do you measure success in your marketing? Like, you're doing these radio commercials, you got some social media stuff, you've got the costume, you got that stuff. Is it reach? Is it engagement? Is it actual closings or just brand recognition?
Well, I think everything comes down to closings. Why spend the money if you're not getting the closings? Um, so that's my goal for this year is to make sure that you know it all balances out from marketing. I mean, radio commercials are very expensive. I'll just tell you that right now. I actually went to you and asked you, "What do you think about this?" And you say you do it right, it'll probably be good, but it's definitely good for recognition.
Now you can tell them I said you were crazy,
Yeah.
just like the Sasquatch costume.
Actually, you didn't. You've been always very encouraging, even with the Sasquatch thing. I'm not so sure you never ridiculed me or made fun of me. You encourage, but maybe you had a little question. And Mike was all in at first, so I like that Mike's. But Mike and I have the same personality. We're usually all in type guys. Um, but as far as the you have to have a balance. And I want relational transactions, as we talked about. And if you stick with that, they'll continue to come back and you'll make the money. But it's still a business. Everything has to work out as far as checks and balances on in the checkbook. You know, I will tell you, I I spent a lot of money on the Sasquatch process and idea. I have gotten that money back probably tenfold at least from that. Um, but it's just a tool to build a relationship with the people.
Yeah, it is. But you've got a gift for dealing with people. Like I've watched you over the years, the way you can communicate with people and stuff like that. Where do you think that comes from?
It came from my father, who recently passed away. I won't start crying on a podcast, but my father was a people person. Um, I was very much raised as an introvert. Uh, I like people. I find that the older I get, um, I'm less introverted though, but it's inside me. If I make a connection with people, it's a good connection, and then other people I just kind of shoo off. Um, I find the older I get, the I'm a very loyal person, as you know. I like connections with a few and not many. In business, it's a little bit different. You try to have connections with as many people as you can. And but all my talent actually comes from my dad. He was just a great man and taught me how to talk to people at an early age. He would always introduce me to very important people. My dad an important man in the Virginia State Police and the Marshal Service and other things. And from the time I could talk, he never treated me like a child. He treated me like I was part of something and I was allowed to speak and interact. He never kept me from that.
That's great. He was a great man. I had the opportunity to meet him a couple times, and sorry for your loss. I know that was tough. I know you were close, but he led a tremendous life, and he was a great man for sure. And so I'm imagining that's why you went into being in the law enforcement as well.
Absolutely, because I admired him so much.
Yeah,
Um, but he never pushed me towards law enforcement. He pushed me to get an education. He was proud that I went into law enforcement, and I probably would have stayed in that direction, but it stressed my wife out too much. And I understood that stress, and then got an offer with a private company, and then we moved out here, and then actually became a realtor because of a very bad experience with a realtor. And my wife was actually the catalyst to that. She's like, "You're smart, you're personable. Why don't you just go get a real estate license?" And um, I'm like, "I don't want to do that." But then I did it. And then I tried to be part-time investigator for a Fortune 500 company and part-time realtor. And then after I got my first couple of checks in real estate, I'm like, no more dealing with crooks. I want to go into sales full time.
yeah. Once you get your first check, you're addicted.
Yeah. Sure.
It's a fun business, and it can be very rewarding. A lot of stress too. But you said something that you were kind of an introvert. I've never perceived you as that, and maybe it's Well, let me just ask you, is it because you always wanted to make your daughters uncomfortable that you just kinda put yourself out there? Because I know when you'd wear that costume at the games, they'd get a little embarrassed.
Yeah. Um, well, the costume's good because you hide behind it. You can be as silly as you want behind the costume. And
Yeah,
I will tell you, I'm not a huge Disney fan, but the guy that and girl that worked for Disney showed me a lot of interpersonal skills to how to deal with people because they deal with crying children all the time. You know, a lot of kids have a complete fear, but you've seen at the hockey games the kids that would run up to me and just jump in my arms and want
yeah,
to be. I think it's because I didn't speak or and would use hand gestures over my face or play shy and because I didn't want the costume to be too scary, but it still had to look like Sasquatch. But I never had an issue with people being afraid, except for a couple of adults who probably had their own issues. But and then the female, the ones that had issues were older females, so they seemed to be scared. But the kids love it.
yeah. No, it's great.
But yes, my daughters didn't like it. My wife didn't like it. But at one of the hockey games, somebody said, "Oh, there's Miss Sasquatch." Without me, I think she was at the concession stand. Of course, she wasn't wearing anything. She just had on a Gold Knights jersey, and she's like, "Okay, now I get it. People have seen me with you, and I'll just have to get used to it." And so, my daughters maybe not so much, but they come around. I do. My youngest daughter gives me Sasquatch gifts, so that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got great daughters too. You've done a good job of raising them. What drives you, Andrew, and keeps the Sasquatch going in the when the market gets tough or deals are falling apart? What drives you?
Wanted to do a good job for people. Wanted to do a good job for my clients, and I wanted to eat too. I could probably retire if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I don't think I'll ever retire. I don't think as long as you'll have me here, I'll be doing something for you until probably the day I die. Um, but I like the job. You asked me the other day how I was doing with teaching the
Post licensing.
post licensing classes. I love it. I enjoy interacting and engaging with people. So I can't imagine me sitting at home not doing anything ever. So as long as the Lord allows me to walk the face of the earth, I'm going to be doing something. I do more charity things now. I do try to get more involved outside of real estate, but the good part about it is when you get involved in other things, more real estate comes because you meet more people and they ask what you do. And, this is a transient town.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a crazy town. The market can be pretty wild in Vegas. What does success look like for you now versus when you first started? Because when you come into real estate, you have a different perception, or I assume it's different. It was for me of what it's going to be like and what success is. What's changed?
Um, well, when you and I first started working, I first started working with you at a different company. Um, I told you right away. I said, "Look, I want my own brokerage," and I'm sure you've had 1,000 agents that have told you that throughout the year, and you're like, "Dude, you haven't been an agent 6 months. Slow your roll, slow your roll, slow your roll." And that was all I could think about. I want my own brokerage, and you helped me achieve that, and that was great. And I thought that was success. But after going through the state leadership program, um, my focus has shifted a lot in the past 10 years, maybe, on what success is. Success for me is just being content with what I have, but I still have the drive to do as much as I can. But it doesn't mean owning a brokerage or being a broker or having 100 transactions a year. 20 transactions a year is what I want to achieve every year. And I want all 20 of those to be extremely satisfied with my service and want to come back and use me again. 20 transactions a year is a pretty good living for most people. So I think full-time agents, that's kind of what they should think as far as making money, spending money in marketing, and having a good living. That's what I think is success. Doesn't mean if you do three, you're not a success. It's just that's what success is for me. But most of my success is not related to real estate. It's related to my relationship and my faith and how I deal with other people.
Awesome. It's funny because I think it's one of the first questions when I was interviewing my first broker when I just got my license back in '96 was, um, where do you see your career going? And I said, one day I'm going to own my own brokerage. It just seems like that's a thing you should say, right? Um, and then as I got going, I really didn't have the intention to. And then be careful what you throw out there because you're going to have the opportunity to do it. Although I've loved it, and management, I think is where I need to be. But one of the lessons I've learned also over the years is more is not the answer. And you kind of said that through your journey there is trying to keep up with the Joneses, trying to have the broker, more deals, more this, more that. It just adds more to it. And when you get there, you think, what? You need more. And so I think that content or being comfortable with where you are allows you to provide a better service and help more people and more families and actually live a better life.
Yeah, it's a less stressful life. But once again, I really enjoy working. I view this place as a home. I've told you many times, you're not the owner of the company to me. You're my little brother because I'm older than you. Same, I enjoy Tom. I enjoy Keith. I enjoy Janet.
Well, now I know you're pushing it.
No, I really do enjoy those people.
They're all fun. They're all a lot of fun. We have a good leadership team, and we do have a lot of fun. We poke at each other a lot, but it is a good group. There's a lot of good experience there.
Yeah. And I've learned something from every one of those people, throughout the years. And as long as you enjoy it, I think I'm going to stay with it and continue doing what I'm doing. And if I didn't do this, I'd have to find something else to do because I just can't stay seated. But I enjoy real estate. It's been a blessing to me and my family and my life. And I'm just happy to be here. And I think as long as you have that happiness, you should do what you're happiest with.
Yeah. Yeah, I always ask myself, what does retirement look like, right? What would you do if you're retired? You do exactly what you wanted to do, right? And if you're doing what you're actually wanting to do, like I am, I enjoy going to work. I do what I want to do. To me, I'm retired. You know what I mean? Because yeah, it's more than just not having anything to do and sitting on the couch. That's not retirement to me. I mean, you're going to have to do something, right?
Yeah.
So if you could go back, Andrew, and give day one Sasquatch, realtor Sasquatch, some advice, what piece of advice would you give him?
Don't be afraid. Don't just don't not do things because people think you're an idiot. Just do it. Put yourself out on a limb. Now there's financial things that I would do different. I would probably have spent hindsight's always 2020. I would have designed the costume differently. But as far as anything else, I think I would stay the same. I'd like the recognition of Sasquatch. I have fun with it. I'm not a drinker, but I've gotten more 16-ounce mugs of beer because somebody sees my license and wants to give Sasquatch a beer,
Yeah.
But I don't think there's be a lot of changes. I think I would just be more content and not worry about what people think of me. And I think that comes with maturity and age, though. But I don't think I'd change a whole lot.
Okay. So let me rephrase it a little different. What advice would you give a new agent getting into real estate today?
Don't be afraid.
Same thing.
Don't be. Well, maybe a little bit different. I wish I had worked my contact systems and kept those things up, a CRM much better than I did. I was old school and kept a lot of things out of a contact system and just, kept it on my computer. I think there is a place for technology. I'm using a contact system now that I like that I learned why I needed to do that. I've been to your academy, I think, like 4 times, and I think the last one was absolutely the best. But it's a complete 180 of the way we used to think in the past. It's completely different. But I resonated more with the last one than I ever did with any of the ones before. I've made 1,000 calls a day before on a platform. Uh, Those are not fun, but those were productive. And those didn't have anything to do with Sasquatch, but at the time, it was just a part of the business. Now I believe that people have to make the personal connection to retain the business and keep them coming back. I was fortunate enough to retain all those people that I had. But if you want to be super successful, you're just going to have to put in the work. There is a place for AI. I love Chat GPT, but I don't let Chat GPT do my personal notes. I don't let them, Chat GPT can't um, have me visit somebody and ask them how they're doing when they've lost a relative or a spouse, or their kids graduated high school, or they've had a pregnancy. Those are personal things. And one thing I think that people figure out real quick is if you're a phony or you're sincere. And if you don't go to it with sincerity and you don't say, call me if there's an issue. And when somebody calls you when there's an issue, if you don't respond, they know you're a phony really quick. Yeah. So do what you say and say what you do. And I think that's the best advice that younger realtors can do. And don't get caught up in cars and, you know, putting out an image that you think you have to have. You can become your own image and still be successful. I've started trying to wear suits more often now and stuff that I've never done before. But do I think that's a necessary part? It depends on your clientele. Depends on who you're dealing with. I deal with the profiling aspect. Be the parts on the part where you're going. So if I have to go to a nice event, then yes, it requires a suit. But otherwise, most of my clients are upper middle income people, and they don't need me to show up in a $1,000 or $5,000 suit wearing a Rolex. I wear a Sasquatch watch that probably costs somebody $49.99 off of Facebook Marketplace, and we can talk more about that than we can a Rolex.
I don't know. I don't own a Rolex, but I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, probably pretty cool. I'd be afraid to wear it. Somebody hit me in the head over it.
You just take it, right? So yeah, no, it's. I mean, that's all good advice. I've changed my approach too. Is I think dressing more professionally has its place, and it's not always because of your clientele. Sometimes it's because the way you makes you feel like you're going to work and professional. Like today, I'm dressed down a little bit in my signature polo, but I've been really trying to wear more suits as well. So I appreciate you stepping up with that image as well in the offices. People notice that stuff, and so especially when you're in leadership. But let's go to this. Let's go to kind of the rapid fire bonus segment here.
Okay,
I didn't send you these questions ahead of time.
that's fine.
So just be ready. So, all right, your favorite Las Vegas neighborhood right now?
Mountain's Edge.
Mountain's Edge. Why?
I like the mountains. I like the wider walking paths that they have and the number of parks that they have. And I would have never ventured over to Mountain's Edge in the past, but now I live close to there, and I've lived almost everywhere except for Henderson. I've lived in Summerlin. I've lived in Centennial. I've lived in Providence. All those are great places, but I think maybe why I like Mountain's Edge so much is my church is there too, and I have a church family. So maybe that's
It's a great community. It's a great community. I did like your house up in Providence too. That was pretty nice. And the second you moved out of there, I moved up north. So not saying that that's the reason why. I'm just saying that's what happened. So, okay. Worst client horror story, no names.
It's actually the one person that's ever given that I told you that would not come back to me, and I feel sorry for the person. It was a military vet that had PTSD.
Oh, never.
Yeah, so we worked through all the processes that we could, but it was a nightmare situation. I know he got the best of everything, and he got the best service, but it didn't reflect in a review or anything else. But I also um, have enough grace that I can give people to where I understand probably where most of it came from. And
Yeah.
nothing that I can do. So, it's funny. I still think of that client, and that client was probably 9 years ago. And when I do, I kind of offer up a silent prayer for the guy because I know he's probably struggling with things.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
still to this day. So yeah, I've not had really any nightmare transactions. I've been very fortunate because I've had a good support group. You know,
Well, and I think a lot of if you're coming from the right place and making the transaction about them and not about you, you're going to have a lot less
it's funny.
horror stories, right?
I do remember one time that you burst my bubble when I was fairly new. Um, I had a listing contract with a little lady that was moving to the Philippines, and we had written in the additional terms that she was leaving her washer and dryer, and I didn't have her initial it. And then she took her washer and dryer to the Philippines, and you looked at me and said, "I think you're going to be paying for a washer and dryer for the buyer." So $800 lesson learned, but guess what? I make sure that all the initials are everywhere they need to be now. I've never made that mistake again.
Never made that mistake again. We learn from everything, right? That's what mistakes are made for. The more mistakes you make, the faster you make them, the sooner success finds you. So, all right. So, one piece of technology you can't live without.
Surprisingly enough, now ChatGPT, you know, even on personal issues, changing it helps me change my tone in letters and things like that. I I'm embarrassed to say I even had it help me write my father's eulogy. Um, because I want it to be as more concise and personable and not ramble so much. So I love ChatGPT. I maybe the death of us someday and make control the world, but right now it's pretty friendly to me.
I think we're all start quickly being all of our favorite tech. It's helping with so much. I mean, when we were in school, I don't know if you remember this, you're doing a report, you had a copy out of the encyclopedia, and now you just go to your computer and it writes the encyclopedia for you.
Yeah, it's amazing though. It's technology that I can't even fathom creating. But I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, dream client, celebrity you'd love to help buy or sell.
I don't have any.
No?
No, I don't have. I mean, I've dealt with celebrities before. They can be fun and um, they can be a pain in the butt too. And the type of people I look up to are really not celebrities. I would rather help someone who really needs me.
Yeah. There's nobody out there you'd like to meet?
Not really. I mean,
Nobody from the Dallas Cowboys? Nothing?
absolutely not.
Don't think I didn't catch the Dallas Cowboy reference early in the podcast.
I'll tell you
Took a jab at me.
somebody who I don't like but respect and would maybe like to pick his brain. Nick Saban.
Yeah?
Yeah, if I had to pick somebody, if I was going to play around the golf with somebody, probably maybe Nick Saban. I think that is when it comes to football, he's an absolute college genius.
All right. So maybe that's a better way to phrase it. Who would you play around a golf?
Yeah, maybe.
Nick Saban. That's good. Well, Andrew, I really appreciate taking the time. Time flies talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you. And spending time with you. And I'm hopeful that our agents and our listeners got to learn a little bit more about what makes you tick and what makes Sasquatch tick and the story behind it, and the genius behind it in reality. But before I let you go, any last thoughts you'd like to give to our listeners?
If you're an agent out there and you want to come by the Southwest office and you want to talk to me about ideas, my door's always open. I enjoy those type of engagements with people. I enjoy helping people succeed. Um, if you talk about my success is trying to help others be successful too. I think that's part of the process in life. I love the book, The Go Giver. We've talked about The Go Giver before and how you find connectors in life. You were, even though you're younger than me, you were actually a connector in my life, and I think that we have to continue to help other people connect to achieve their goals. So don't be afraid to approach me. Yeah, sometimes I'm kind of quiet. I sit back in the corner office, but I can promise you, I will never turn you away from asking any question or helping you out with anything at all. So please come to me.
And I'll be the first one to say that that is legitimately sincere. Like he means it. So it's been neat to see you come up as an agent. And I know you've had a previous life with law enforcement and in the insurance industry, investigator, and all that other stuff. But to see you kind of develop the real estate to the point now where you're teaching post licensing, you're in management, and you're giving back. It's really been an awesome to watch you go through that process. So thank you for that, and thank you all for listening. You've been listening to Signature Buzz, and if you like or subscribe, we'd appreciate it. And just remember, we're always affirming your success. Have a great day.